Welcome back, everyone, to Ladder League Recaps. This will be the Week 2 recap and the Week 3 predictions. And like I said, I'm going to have a special guest on every week. And this week, I'm honored to have Tfresh here in person, by the way. I may or may not have moved in with him for a little bit, maybe. So obviously, this will be a special in-person recap. I don't know how many of those that'll happen. But obviously, we're going to talk about Week 2 and Week 3 this week. Last week's ended up being an hour and 8 minutes, so I want to not have it that long this week. It shouldn't be, considering there's less matches to recap and less matches to predict. Shout out to Core, obviously. And anyways, moving on, we'll start with the bottom rung of week 2, which that match actually just happened. The Twice Like Quasar Zoda match. Um, I like this was obviously the day I was moving, so I didn't get to catch too much of this match, but I know there was the soft lock in Princess for Twice Light, but he still battled back and won. T-Fresh, I don't know if you caught much of this match, but
I caught little bits and pieces of episode 4 and then again in 5. I mean, I don't remember fully all what happened. I know Zoda had some meltdowns in Gunship and Dooku, and then something happened in Junlin, and he never really recovered from that. Uh,
did he miss Fast Force again, or
no, it was he goes for that strat, not BBJ, but the
the
clip,
clip? Yeah.
and it did not go well.
Oh, okay.
Um, I know Twice Light thought he soft locked in Princess, but he actually didn't. But he still managed to come back. I thought
Yeah.
for sure it was over after
Was it
that.
behind the door, room one?
Yeah, so he
Yeah,
popped up
classic.
behind the door and thought he soft locked, but you can get a call in from there. Quasar was actually on PB pace out of episode 6, and then had some unfortunate mishaps. I don't know if it happened in this episode 3, but I know he lost a minute in Echo Base, missed boom skip, and then had some troubles with the buttons and some other issues. But unfortunately, they both entered best bet around 20 seconds apart. Twice they opted to not go for GTF and just walk in the victory, and there was not much Quasar could do at that point. He does not know how
Yeah.
to do.
I did actually catch Shout out to Zoda. He did the Vader fight skip in Dagobah,
He
which that
did.
I did catch the last 3 levels, and I was really proud to see that Zoda doing that.
He
Finally
did.
that skip, seeing some light. Which, by the way, I mean, I think it's technically faster if you do it fast enough, but like by like half a second or something. So
Yeah, I mean it's unfortunate to see Zoda go. You could see so many cool strats from him. The Viola skip in Junland, the Vader fight skip. He went for Chimkin box every match he was in. The problem is he just didn't have the time, unfortunately, for this ladder league to really put in the time. His PB was at 235, and he just never really got back to the point to where he was at that level again.
that's what like he just didn't get have the time to derust. Like if he had locked in derusted, I think he could have like so many runners turn have gone from like a high 2-3x or mid 2-3x to a low 2-3x or high 2-2x. Like if he put in that time as well, we might see him being a 231, but obviously just not quite there this time. So unfortunately, seeing Zoda leave here in week 2, as well as Quasar, which honestly this is, I think a lot of people had Quasar as maybe an upset prediction to get top 8, or maybe him just staying in the tournament longer because Quasar had a 304 entering like ladder league sign up area time,
And
and
that was
he
just a one-off run that he did randomly. He learned
yeah,
the game and just did a run.
and then he ended up I think with what like a 238 or something at the start of ladder league, and now he has a 228, which
Mm-hmm.
by the way is some of the fastest improvement I've ever seen from a 30x to a 22x. I have like maybe the fastest.
I think it is the fastest.
It
I think
has to
we
be.
checked because the only person he would have been in contention with, I think, would have been Frostbite. But yeah, it is the fastest.
Yeah, and in terms of potential for the tournament, like I could even see him being like an upset top 8 pick. I know some people pick that, so I know it's like it was not unrealistic, especially with the 228 like and the speed at which he was progressing at. Hopefully, he doesn't take this as like a sign to stop. Hopefully, he keeps going because I know it could be demotivating, especially getting knocked out of a tournament when you thought you can go so much deeper. So obviously, hopefully, he keeps going. And obviously, close race lost to Twice Lights never like a fun thing to have. Um,
Yeah, I mean, honestly, in looking at last week's performance, Quasar could have easily been in another week if this. I mean, he
yeah,
had some just meltdown in Echo Base, and it just really allowed Anonymous to leapfrog him. And unfortunately, that was what ultimately eliminated him. Because if he was in the rung above him, I mean, he would have won. So it's just really unfortunate how everything ended up falling. But yeah, we could have seen he could have definitely lasted several more weeks.
Yeah, I guess that like shows the importance of obviously staying high up on the ladder because the longer you're in, the more time you have to potentially get a wild card time, the more time you have to potentially just stay alive and improve. So by week 7, you could maybe qualify. So it's just always important to stay as high as possible on the ladder. And unfortunately, obviously, getting out this week definitely was not on a lot of people's like checklist for Quasar. Anyways, I guess moving on to Twice Light, kind of an improved performance for sure. Like honestly, almost up to PB level from last week's sort of I disaster. I guess I could even put it.
And I think if not for the soft lock TPVs,
I think it's very close. I don't know how much time that soft lock lost, but
I think someone said 2 minutes. I don't know
oh,
how
okay,
accurate that is. Someone said we're in the realm of 2 minutes, and his PB
229.
is a high 229
Yeah,
too.
so
So
probably would have even
probably
PB'd, and that's a no reset. Um, I mean, I wouldn't be so like Twice Light is someone I was. If you guys think back way to the first predictions video I did for my top 8, I was this close to putting Twice Light as my 7 seed because I think he's got the potential. And now that he's back and now has gotten the leapfrog as well, he's safe from elimination. He's gonna have a really good chance, especially against Revy and Coulson, who have two like their PBs are near Twice Light as well to even improve more. But anyway, we'll touch on that when we get to the predictions. But obviously, Twice Light getting a leapfrog here, very big for him staying in the tournament and at least being saved until week 4 now. And then now moving on to rung 5. Yeah, rung 5. Yeah, rung 5.
yeah 5.
This was the coolest in Charizard anonymous match. I didn't get to catch too much of this, but I know that there was a crazy Bestman ending. I didn't even see it. I don't know if you saw it.
I saw the fact that I was 100% confident that Coulson had missed the spline for GTF. And then I was like, this is over because he didn't realize,
Mm-hmm.
and he did hit the spline. And no one thought he hit it.
Okay.
He must have, I mean, barely hit it somehow. And he was super low. He had the wrong angle. He wasn't even at the right window. Like all of it was bad, but it worked, and he won. If that had not happened, he would not have won. And he would have been the one getting leapfrogged, and he would be facing elimination next week.
Yeah, and then obviously Charizard, unfortunately, like another match. Well, I mean, obviously the last. I don't want to say he did perform poorly in week 1, but he missed on a leapfrog opportunity in Bespin week 1, which you can argue is annoying enough, and then loses a very close race and gets leapfrogged because of it in week 2, putting him in a really tough position week 3, which we'll get to in a second. But yeah, I'm sure Charizard not too happy about these performances early on, despite doing really well in the PB realm, getting down to what, a 228 now or 229.
He's got a 229. With Charizard's issues, he's got a lot of late game problems. I mean, he even his PB into episode 5 is like 225. If you're a top runner, I mean, if Justin takes over for episode 5, we super takes over for episode 5, you're getting a 224
Yeah.
with his episode 5 exit or entrance. So he's just got a lot of cleanup to do in the late game. He can do that. He can definitely easily win the next week. But we can get more into that in predictions.
Yeah, and then I guess finally touching on Anonymous. Yeah, I mean, this was going to be a race that's going to be very hard for him to win in the first place. I mentioned last week, or did I mention this last week? I may have mentioned this last week that I talked to Anonymous and he said his ceiling was like a 231 at best. And obviously, I guess he would have to basically reach that ceiling with what he was saying to even, have a chance. Maybe he could have gotten second, but then got leapfrogged, and it wouldn't have mattered. He'd still be in the bottom row. So obviously not a great performance from Anonymous, but it wasn't expected that he was going to go out and top 2 this race or even win. So he'll have we'll get to it, but an extremely hard battle in the last rung next week. But obviously he's advanced so far already beyond his initial seeding that it is already like a good tournament for him, no matter what. But we'll get to that on predictions as well and talking about him. Moving on to rung 4 now, which was the big movement rung as explained in last week, where literally you could end up as high as rung 2 and as low as the bottom rung, and that's exactly what we saw this week. And obviously we have Tfresh who was in that race. I can maybe start us off, and then Tfresh, you can go through what you were thinking in this run. obviously there's the big crash moment for Tfresh, which ended up getting retimed, which led to a really close race between you and Daime throughout, and then Daime with a really good episode 5 to finish out for the win. And Flop with some struggles. We can go over that in a second, but any thoughts on this race, particularly because you were in it?
Yeah, I mean, all of us off the bat had really bad early games. I'd say for all of us. I mean, I had the best negotiations with a 219. I mean, just poor starts from all of us. I don't think any of us even got a sub 21 episode one. Just really not great. I know me and Flup were mentally battling most of this run. Out of episode two, the race was still fairly close. My OBS crashed and I lost a minute 45. I was pretty mentally done. I actually killed myself in Secret Plans like 7 times in a row out of frustration. And then Zach DM'd me and told me just to pretend it didn't happen because it might get removed anyway. So I did.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the race was pretty close throughout all episode four. Diamond and Flup both having some struggles in Junlin and Spaceport. I still had some struggles in Junlin, just not as many as they did, and was basically even with Daime. And then I had a better Princess and a much better Rebel attack and took the lead at that point. And then my Jabba's and Carcoon were, I mean, very good. I think a 607 and a 442. So just very hard for Daime to have made up any time there. Basically was about a minute ahead at that point, and then he saved about a minute on Endor, leaving us almost within 10 seconds of each other. And then that kind of stayed the same all the way until CCT. I got a 442, and he got a much better CCT and ended up taking the lead and winning off of that. I don't fully remember all of what happened to Flup. I know there were several issues. She popped inbound during Spiderless, but I don't remember a whole lot about what happened on her.
Yeah. This race, I got the honor of watching pretty much the whole thing, and especially I guess we can talk about Fluff first, which she had a really rough race, which I know was expressed a lot from her after the match. But at least the good news, like at least in terms of looking forward, is like there was a PB after, and I know it's gonna be a tough journey from the bottom rung here, but definitely favored and like I would still like I initially predicted Fluff as the 7th seed, which I'm not gonna say that that's completely out of the window. I still have some hope, but it's gonna be a long grind. Like from the bottom rung, it's gonna take a leapfrog or maybe just like winning every single week to survive at this point. But I don't doubt that that can happen. In terms of Daime, like this was a really impressive race for me because last week it was looking like all right, 229 again. A lot of his practice runs were 229. So I was like, all right, this is kind of where like Daime might be stuck in this range, especially for a no reset. But he came out and got a 226, which if you qualify everyone seating wise above him, he actually like holds the wild card time. If you just qualify everyone seating wise above him and then look for the 8th seed. So Daime, in a really good spot and really improved in my opinion. He got the 224, of course, a big PB for him. So definitely someone to look out for in terms of top 8 qualification. And then I guess I can speak on Tfresh as well. I mean, once again, I think he's another threat for the top 8 qualification, especially the wild card. I mean, of course, the 7th seed is always going to be a potential option, but it's probably going to take an upset to get there. So I know you're probably going to be looking at, trying to put up your best race time. Of course, you want to stay high the ladder, but it might be more important to put up like a good race time that'll contest like that Dime A 226.47. Obviously, the wild card I think is projected to be quite a bit lower than that, maybe like a 225, high 224, maybe even better. We'll have to see how the improvement goes by week 6 and 7. Well, I guess week 6 is all done together. So by week 6, which is I think less than a month away now. So yeah, we'll have to see how the improvement goes. But I would say out of this race, like 3 future potential top 8 competitors who weren't initially in that top 8. And then obviously Tfresh getting to rung 3 is not going to be a death sentence or anything, so still going to have a good fight from there. Okay, moving on to the Anorak Revi Phantom race. I guess I can yap a little bit about this one because I commentated. This was a really exciting race for a while. Phantom like really surprised me, having like well, he was 2 minutes ahead of Anorak in episode 4, which Anorak was not having a good start, but I think he was almost 2 minutes or maybe more ahead of his PB up until the disaster on DSE. I believe, like, yeah, so he was 2 minutes ahead, or was it? It was Princess was also bad too, but he was over 2 minutes ahead of Anorak up until that point because Anorak had some problems with the player three glitch in Spaceport. So Phantom to me like really impressed me despite losing this lead. Like showed a lot of potential here, and of course like he was in a tough position because he leapfrogged last week. He was in a position where it set up the rung below him as all runners who could pretty much get a better time than him. So he gets leapfrogged, which kind of sucks, but keeps him in rung three, which is still it's going to be we'll get to it, but it's definitely going to be the quote unquote movement rung of next week. Because you can go all the way up to rung one and all the way down to rung, was it four? Yeah.
Elimination, yeah.
Yeah, elimination rung, whatever. However, I think it might be five actually. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. 5 rungs a week? No.
No, before.
4. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. Enough about that, but yeah, still impressing me. Obviously, there was a lot of like towards the end that didn't go Phantom's way. He ends up losing. Anorak, it's another concerning run for me. Of course, he gets a 226.56 week one, so that's like a much better run than this week. But this was a little concerning in terms of Anorak, like a lot of big mistakes. So I think like Anorak as a racer, maybe some no resets or just like practicing. I know it's weird to say, but like trying to limit disasters in practice and whatnot. Like it's weird to say because you can't really practice limiting disasters without actually doing a no reset. Which maybe some no resets are in the cards for Anorak between now and the next race because obviously he's like prone to some disasters, but he also is like shown that he can be a really top runner on any level and do some like really unique strats that are BTT esque strats. So I mean, we'll have to see. I think Anorak is a super high ceiling, super low floor sort of runner. So we'll have to see next week. He's obviously going to be in a tough matchup there, including myself, but still in rung two in a good spot. And then Revy, like this was kind of like the expected outcome for Revy, I'd say. Like he's not, in a super dangerous place. Like rung four, he's still in a potential spot to survive, and he's against two runners around the same PB level. So I'd say Revy's not in a bad spot. And the 233 is like a little worse than like he had some bad disasters early on. Like the time is worse than how I think he did. Um, I guess I'll ask you. I know you didn't get to see this match, but if you have any opinions or thoughts on this.
Yeah, I mean, I would just say again, I think it's kind of concerning for Anorak to get put up at 229 because he's going to be one of those runners who's fighting for a wild card spot, I think. So he needs to put up like a 225 or a 224 at some point, unless he's planning on getting an upset in one of these and making it to run one at some point. I don't have a whole lot else to say. I mean, like you said, Phantom's having a great run all the way up till DSC. That pop in on Trash Skip was disastrous, but I didn't catch very much.
Yeah. Okay. So moving on to rung two, which this honestly was one of the more entertaining races of the week. Like, well, might have been the most entertaining. Like, what really killed it was obviously the soft lock or the hard lock from Laser on Chancellor because I think we would have ended up seeing an extremely close three-way race where Laser could be like PBing by a lot into Bespin. Because obviously when you hard lock, mental shot. I mean, you can. I'll say it firsthand. There, the mental's kind of shot after you hard lock. It's because especially at like a level where Laser's at, and like Justin and Erasmi, it's like if you hard lock, you're basically done. Like there's really no recovering. So Laser, I'm not like concerned at all because this is the second week in a row where he's put up a really solid time, and I think without the hard lock, he probably would have been at a better pace than this week. For sure, a better pace this week one time. So I'm not too concerned about Laser despite going down to rung three. Harass me. I just want to say super super impressed. Like with the week one performance, I was still pretty confident. Like around the 5-6 seed is like where he'll probably go. Like 4 to 6 range realistically. But this week really was like a statement. It wasn't a win because Justin still put up that 222.05, but a very statement PB slash race. I was really impressed with Razmi. And I think honestly, with he like considering how close his race was with Justin, he'll have a chance at actually getting the 3 seed next week. And then in terms of Justin, I mean a big improvement from week one. Uh, I mean historically he's an experienced runner, so I think the expectation is he gets the 3 seed here next week, or at least the 4 seed. So I'm not too concerned about Justin at all. I know once again you didn't really get to catch much of this race, but any thoughts on the times and whatnot?
I mean, yeah, I mean, I didn't catch a whole lot of this. I do know that Terrazmi missed boom skip and elected to keep going for it, which only saves, I think, 2 seconds or maybe even only 1 second to just pushing the turnstile. And he paid for it. He lost around a minute, ended up not getting first in the race, and would have, and this was a PB, so he would have PB'd by an extra minute. Um, yeah, I mean, I've been a big proponent for just stopping because the gain isn't really there, and there's so much risk at that point to keep continue trying to going for boom skip. Really unfortunate from Laser. He hard locked in Chancellor, but not in the place that you would think. It was on CSJ. If that hadn't happened, I believe he was actually ahead of Justin at that point. So you could have easily seen him winning and someone losing in rung two with a 222 like that. That would have been insane for that to happen. Um, would have definitely shook up the bracket quite a bit. But yeah, I mean, you could have easily seen Laser and Harasmi winning. If Harasmi had
Which is
elected,
crazy to say. Like Justin could have been wrong 3. Like
yeah,
that's
I mean that
crazy.
would have been. I mean that would have just been. I mean, insane, just wild. Because Justin didn't even put up a bad time.
Yeah.
So
I guess moving on to wrong one, which I'm just gonna straight up say like there was some bad performances this week, but this was the bozo race of the week in my
I was gonna
opinion,
say that same
and
thing.
yeah, and I think I contributed the most to this. I guess speaking on the winner, Jared here. This is a. I don't want to say like I didn't since I was focused on the race. I didn't see all the reason why he got a 2:23.50, but it is a little concerning when it comes to like okay, we're not going to see him anymore until the top 8 outside of PB attempts. So when we actually see him in the top 8, is he going to like a 2:23.50 could get him knocked out in the first round? Definitely a time like the semifinal that could just have him lose, and that's definitely going to lose in the final. So like I'm a little concerned, like especially with Jared having the 2 seed locked up now. Like, will we see him with these sort of times? Like Jared obviously is a very volatile racer, historically not the best. He even admitted it himself. I know he can agree that he's not the best racer. So hopefully he will like by top 8, we'll see a new Jared. And we know he literally has world record and has a time 5 minutes better than this. So we'll get to see hopefully top 8, a little bit of a better showing from Jared. But nonetheless, he locks up the 2 seed. Like you can't like as much as I'm saying this is a concerning performance. He's locked up the 2 seed. Has a few weeks to get ready, prepare for top 8, get a better record, maybe even. So yeah, not too concerning from him. In terms of Dragon, this performance wasn't like super like enthusiastic. Like I know he was like so after my like disastrous start to the race, I know I had a god fraud problem and whatnot. I like didn't realize before the hard lock how close the race was until I went on the stream to complain after the hard lock. And I was like, oh wait, this actual race is actually close. So like not a super like great performance from Dragon, but considering what he did week 1 and considering how much he's been playing the game, like I'm not like too worried about him. I definitely think he could be a competitor for the 3 seed. I think realistically he gets somewhere between 4 and 6. I think the realistic 4 through 6 seeds without any crazy upsets will be between myself, Erasmi, Dragon. But obviously upsets could happen. But yeah, we'll see him in rung 1 again next week. Not a great performance. It's not definitely not going to be a performance at 225.54 that'll qualify him as the 3 seed for sure. So I'll have to put up something like he did week 2 or maybe even better in PB or week 1. I meant. In terms of me, I can go through what happened in the race over and over. I can say it again. I guess I'll briefly go over one more time. Obviously, a God fraud miss was not great. The obvious big hard lock, which lost me around like 2 minutes, and then my controller batteries died in Carcoon, which lost me a full minute. So obviously a string of bad events, and like in my opinion, this is just talking about myself personally. Like that is the absolute like floor run that could have happened. I had a like 2 PB paces now since then where I just blew them to whatever late game stuff. But yeah, I'm fully expecting. Well, I did act technically PB actually. I got a 0.5 second PB, so technically I've PB'd recently, and I know I can just destroy that PB. So I would be surprised by by week 3, 4 if I'm not putting up significantly better race times. But anyways, yeah, that was the Bozo race of the week for a reason, mainly me. Uh, and we can move on to our predictions. We're not making too bad time here. We'll start with.
I just want to say a
Oh
couple of
yeah. Oh
things.
yeah. Go
Yeah,
ahead. I
yeah.
totally forgot. I totally forgot.
So Jared did privately say that he would not be doing any more runs, basically at all
Wow.
until the top eight. So I mean, very worrying. I mean, you look at Frost over here with a 2:20:24, still the best time in the ladder league. He just did one run, and just kind
Yeah.
of really made a statement with that 2:20. I mean, Justin's the next closest here with this 2:22, but Jared is the record holder, and he hasn't even gotten within what 4.5 minutes of his PB. So a little bit worrying. We'll have to see if he can. If he's going to take off these next few weeks basically and just practice. So we'll have to see if maybe that can help fix some of his race issues, and because he's really going to need to put up some better times than that in the top eight. That could get him out. That could get him out week one, depending on what his match is. Honestly, just depends on who ends up being the 7 seed. Um, but yeah, I didn't catch much of this race though.
Okay. Yeah. No worries. All right, we'll move on to the predictions now because it's going to be an exciting week three, and I guess we'll start obviously with the bottom rung, which I definitely don't want to say this is like a decided race already, but this on paper is probably like the most decided race of all of them. Like in terms of every single position. I think we both know what our order will be if we had to choose an order here.
Yeah.
But I guess to speak on each runner, like so far, like Flup definitely is the favorite in this match, and like we've seen some like really bad or in terms of Flup standards, bad performances from Flup this tournament so far, but those like bottom performances from Flup are beating Charizard and Anonymous's best time so far, or beating their PBs
By
literally.
considerable amounts.
So like
Two.
Anonymous and Charizard kind of pulled the short straw here by playing Flup. Obviously, Anonymous is in a position where he's played so well this tournament above where like expectation has him, especially with the leapfrog week one. So he's just, if he loses, I think he's playing AM already, so he's kind of accepted his fate. But, still a good performance from this tournament. I don't want to write him off right now, but I think he knows and most people know that it might be his time. In terms of Charizard, this will be the interesting part of the race. Can Charizard maybe put up a near PB performance to compete with Love? Is essentially this race is gonna boil down. Um, I'll ask Tfresh here what his thoughts are on this race, and then we can pick orders, which I think we might know what that's gonna be. But I'll let you put your
Yeah,
thoughts.
I mean, I agree with everything you just said. I think, unfortunately, for Anonymous, to be blunt, I don't think it matters who's in the bottom rung. I don't see a way that he would win. He would have had to put a lot more time into any percent. I think for him, he sees it as an ultimate win though. Started out in the bottom rung, leapfrogged. He's actually the one who came up with the leapfrog mechanic, so it's kind of cool that he actually got to see it put to use himself. Um, but yeah, I just unfortunately I don't think that there's any way he can really win this race. I do agree that I think Flup's the favorite. Charizard's got a lot of late game issues. Anyone who's kind of watched him, if any mistake kind of happens, it just kind of spirals from there, and that level doesn't really end up going very well. So he's got a lot to work on if he really wants to be able to win this race. And I think also from a mental standpoint, he's got to take it more seriously. Because it doesn't really seem like he's taking it all that seriously. So if he really wants a chance at winning this race, he's going to have to close the chat, close the stream, and just focus.
Yeah. And I will say, I guess one thing we didn't mention is the potential of leapfrog as well. So someone like Flup, who we have projected to win this race, I guess before I move on, I think our order here is going to, both of us agree that's going to be Flup, Charizard, Anonymous, our
Yeah.
predicted order here. Um, I'm going to say leapfrog for Flup. Flup has a better PV than everyone on the rung above. So would not be surprised if Flup leapfrogs second place in from 4 next week. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what's going to be interesting, though, because I mean, we can talk about a little bit more, and then when we talk about the next rung, but Twice Light getting a 2:31:19 with that, I mean, disaster in Princess. I mean, honestly, who knows what time he's gonna put up next week. Um, but I just really don't see. I mean, Revulo and Coolison's, it would be very tough for them to put up a time that Fluff would not be able to leapfrog.
Yeah.
Very
And I
tough.
guess we can perfectly transition over to the next rung.
Do you want to?
Oh yeah. So I guess we'll fill out our forms here. Um, I think we're both gonna have flub.
Oh, that's fine. I'll just do yours off.
Yeah, that's fine. We both picked flub. By the way, I guess go back to it real quick. I just want to. What was the point value? I was there. Shout out to Anonymous for setting this up so quickly because today I was moving in and this 20 points. That's yeah.
Yeah.
If Anonymous wins and anyone picks them, you deserve every single one of those points.
Yeah. I mean, there's an 8 minute differential here. So
Yeah,
this though, I mean, that's so close. They're PBs. Although I don't think that's the right PB.
I think it's right. Um, yeah. Anyways, I guess moving on to that rung four match, which this is gonna be probably like I forgot to like since last year. I think I did this where I had the race of the week and I did not mention it the past 2 weeks. So like I'm gonna say like I'm gonna restart it now. The trend of race of the week or match of the week, whatever I called it last year. This is definitely it because I think this could go 3 ways. Like everyone's PBs have been so close. In terms of like this is an interesting race because I think of like Twice Light as someone who has the highest ceiling here, and Revy and Coulson are more who like have showed more consistency in races, but don't really have a super high ceiling. So like if Twice Light, I think I don't want to say this right now, but it could be a race where Twice Light controls his own fate. I could see Twice Light getting like a PB in this race and absolutely smoking it, or having another disastrous performance like in week one, and then someone like Revy or Coulson who have had more consistent runs so far. They haven't been great times, but they haven't been terrible take this race. And obviously, second place is going to be vital. Of course, there's the leapfrog factor with luck, but you never know. You still want to obviously you want to win, but you still want to play for top two, of course, if you can, if you're out of the win. So second place could be very vital too if the bottom rung doesn't put up a great time. If I had to go for my order here, I'm gonna say Twice Light reaches the ceiling and wins this race. I'll go. It's tough. I'll go Coulson for second and Revy for third. And I just think it's like, I think Twice Light reaches his ceiling, so it's going to be tough here. That's just my go. What do you think the order or any match thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, this, like he said, this match is, I mean, it's going to be so close. I definitely agree that Twice Light definitely, the match is almost in his hands, so to speak. I mean, it's really just going to depend on how he can really play. I mean, if you look at these times from Coulson, like that's some consistency right there. Meanwhile, Revelo showing a little bit less consistency. So I have to agree with him. I'd say Twice Light, Coulson, Revelo. I really do think Twice Light's going to pull out if he doesn't PB in the next week, he'll PB in the match, I think.
Yeah. And of course, like, this is a super vital because it could be with the flop leapfrog. It could be winner goes to rung three, and both second place and the loser of this match are in the bottom rung next week potentially. So this is going to be a very vital race, and I don't want to call this the movement rung because the next one definitely is, but this is a very rung where you can be anywhere between rung 3 and 5 next week. I guess we'll move on to rung 3, which will be your race. And this is, once again, you are put in another situation, which is the movement rung. You can go as high as rung 1, as low as rung 5, or rung 4. So you can either be in the top rung or the bottom rung come next week. I guess, what are your thoughts on that, just being in this situation again?
So this rung is, I mean, it's so interesting. So last week I was pretty confident I was going to be able to win, and I would leapfrog. Like I was sure of it. So going into this week, I didn't leapfrog. OBS crashed. Just some things happening. This week's going to be very interesting. I'm facing Phantom again, who I did lose to in the first week, but I think we both improved a lot since then. It's going to be a very interesting week. I I don't feel confident I can leapfrog to rung 1. Laser would have to have just an unbelievable meltdown. I've had a couple runs that are on pace for a 224, 225 in episode 5. So I'd have to get a run like that, and he would have to have a meltdown, which just seems rather unlikely. Not to mention the fact that I would then also have to beat whatever Anorak or Daime is going to put up in the next run.
Yeah, so like I guess looking at this race, the theoretical like turnout of this race would be Laser's going to be probably winning. He's the favorite, and he'll be playing for a leapfrog time,
Hmm.
realistically. So, like, Laser could be rung one, rung two with a win this week. But obviously, every single placing is going to have so much value in this match. So, second and third is going to be a huge difference because second, with just judging by PVs, shouldn't be at too much of a risk of leapfrog. And even if you do get leapfrogged, you're not even in the bottom rung. So it's not like a complete disaster even to get. So second is just so important because third goes straight to the bottom rung, which I mean, of course, we can't predict any leapfrogs. Flup in theory could be in the bottom rung again next week, which would just be dangerous for anyone to race against Flup in that bottom rung in a match where two people are guaranteed to be eliminated. So very very important race for every single placing. And I would say I'd agree with you. Like Laser's probably the only one here that could realistically jump up to rung one, unlike last week where I think it could have been anyone up to rung two. If I had to go with my predictions, I'm gonna go Laser first. I'll go Tfresh second and Phantom third. Even though I'm super impressed with Phantom so far, I think he's just run into like a really hard situation here where Tfresh has been improving really fast. Laser is obviously like a top level runner, so it's just a tough situation for Phantom. Although I still think even if he goes to the bottom rung, he could be surviving, as late as week 6 still.
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to say I agree with you there. Laser myself, then Phantom. Um, I think it's gonna be really tough for Phantom to win this race. I think he'd have to PB. Honestly, I don't see any other way. Um, I I almost want to put myself as winning, but I think that's a little overconfident. If I couldn't win the previous 2 weeks, and Laser is a much tougher competitor, I think, than anyone else I've faced so far. So I think I'll also put Laser to win this race.
I guess I'll touch on it real quick as you're putting in Laser. Um, I will say the Laser of the past, the season one Laser, could lose this match. I think, or like it's maybe a Laser before this ladder league, but I think I've seen a lot of race improvement from Laser, where I think his floor is significantly higher now than where I saw him before. So I think the Laser of the past could maybe lose this race, but I think the Laser of the now will make sure that that doesn't happen. So yeah, I think just another thing, Laser should be in a good spot here, and potentially even a wrong one next week. And I guess we'll move on to my match here, myself, Anorak, and Daime. I think this is a really unique race because I think it's like three runners with a really high ceiling and also three runners with a really low floor. I mean, I know I touched on my like that was the 227 was my absolute floor, so I shouldn't say like I don't think, in my opinion, there's any chance I get third in this race. I think if one of the two runners puts up like an insane time and I'm just like on an off day, that I think a second place could happen, and I wouldn't be too concerned about a leapfrog, but yeah, I think I'm personally in a pretty good position here in this run. Obviously Anorak with a 224 PB, and I think he could PB, but at the same time he could put up I don't know, he put up a 229 last week, so I don't know what to expect out of Anorak. It's going to be another we'll see what happens sort of race. And obviously Anorak doesn't quite have doesn't have the remember if we qualify everyone ahead of him, he doesn't quite have the wild card time currently. So it would be interesting, if Anorak is on a decent run or like, well, actually I shouldn't say that. He's definitely gonna go for GTF, even if he's on like a really good run and he doesn't want to lock up wild card time or anything. Um, and then Daime, who put up a really impressive performance last week. I mean, I'm trying to. I think I win this race just because PB wise, and I think I could literally PB in a no reset right now. But in terms of second place, it's gonna be tough. I'm gonna go Anorak as a safer pick here, and then Daime third, just because Anorak has the better PB, and it's not even by much anymore. That's honestly, is that even the safer pick by saying Anorak second? I'm not sure. I'm gonna go Anorak second, Daime third. I'm gonna go. I actually think that Laser might leapfrog second place here, no matter what. Anyways, but that's just my pick. What are your thoughts slash order here?
This one is tough. I definitely think you first. Between Anorak and Daime, it's so interesting because like you would think You know, these runners, you look at their combined times, right? If you combine their week 1 and week 2 times, they have a difference of what, 5 seconds.
Yeah.
So it's really tough to pick. Just based on the runners themselves and their mentals and all that kind of stuff. I think I have to go with Daime. Um, I Anorak kind of concerns me from a racing standpoint. Daime's got more uh stuff with the game. I think Anorak goes for a few more strats as well. Um, so there's just more room for disasters, and as has been shown, it doesn't seem like he's the best racer. Um, so I think I have to go with Daime here, with the way things are currently seeming to look. But I do think that Laser leapfrogs.
Yeah.
So
All right, and then that'll set us up for our final week, final rung here of week 3, rung 1, and this is obviously the qualification match. So first place will get third in the bracket, and I will like to mention that I think most people can recognize probably Frost as the favorite to win this event right now. Obviously, has finished qualifying first and putting up good times in pretty much all of his streams and whatnot. So this is a big match to quote unquote avoid Frost if you're on that bandwagon. So this will be big for anyone trying to get on the other side of the bracket. Um, I think the favorite here is going to be Justin again, just because he just PB'd and he's been putting up good paces, and he's historically I wouldn't say he's a phenomenal racer historically, but he's an experienced racer and he can put up a good time when he needs to, for sure. So I would say I would personally pick Justin with this race. I think Harasmi, once again, we saw the really close race last week, but I think my prediction here, I think Justin's gonna put up a time like maybe like a high 220 that Harasmi like could get on an extremely good run, but to do that on a no reset, I'm not expecting. It would take like an insanely good run. So I'm gonna go Justin first, harass me second with probably another solid performance, but probably one that's I'm just gonna go like a 2:23:14. Come back to me when he gets exactly that time. Um, and then yeah, Dragon I'm gonna say third because a little bit of a backwards movement from last week. I don't think Dragon's like in any trouble or anything. I think he's just in a really tough position here to try to qualify. Like exact position as last week, where it's like he's in rung 1, but it's going to take a really, really good race for him to qualify. So I think he'll go down to rung 2 after this week, but it's going to be no concern in terms of overall qualification for him. What are your thoughts here?
yeah, I mean, this race is so interesting. I mean, you look at the past times in the past 2 weeks, and you can clearly see anyone could win, which is kind of insane because Dragon is the 7th seed
Hmm.
going into this, and he could win in week 3. Like, legitimately, he could win. Um, Me personally, it's so tough to pick someone out of these 3 runners to win. I I do think Karasmi loses here. Personally, I think he gets last. He's not the most consistent runner out there. He did pop off last week, but I don't know if he was in last year's ladder league. Ladder league.
He was, but he like had a significantly worse PV, so it was like kind of a different situation. He was like in let's just say, like he was in like Rebby low
Gotcha.
slash like Coulson flop range, I think, last year.
So personally, from what I do know about harassment, I personally think that the being in rung 1, like the pressure gets to him, and I think he gets last. I think he's gonna put up another 225 or 226. Um, I really do think the race is gonna be between Dragon and Justin. And between these two, honestly, I think for the points, I'm gonna predict Dragon, and predict Justin to get second. I think that's what I'm gonna go with.
Oh, I guess something to mention because I haven't brought it up, and this is a pretty significant part of the race is God Fraud, and of the I guess I'll just talk quickly on the top 3 rungs about it. Laser will definitely be, or I don't want to say definitely be going for it. Laser will likely be going for it in rung 3. He might opt not to because he's like in a position where he doesn't need to. Myself and Anorak will be going for it on rung 2. I know Anorak for sure. I mean, I'll be going for it. I don't think there's any point not. And then in rung 1, it might only be Justin. I don't think Harasmi will. We haven't seen Dragon. He's probably been working on it, but I'm not sure if we'll see it in a race. He might, considering his position where it's like, maybe he needs Godfrey to win because like Justin getting a 1 minute lead in the early game could just be enough to hold the entire race. We haven't seen a good early game from Justin quite yet, but one of these races you might. And obviously Justin doesn't even need a good early game to win the race. So I'm gonna predict like a scenario where Justin might not have the best early game. He could be third by like almost a minute out of episode 4, but I still think he wins the race. Anyways, as we wrap up the predictions here, I will ask you about your top 8 predictions real quick, and if you want to reference them, go ahead. And I just want to say, how do you feel about your top 8 predictions right now?
So if I had to redo them, I think I would do them a little bit differently.
Mm-hmm.
I'd keep the top 3, I think, the same. I think this is still what I would predict, without knowing what the bracket would like, what the weeks would turn out to be. So obviously, knowing what I know now, I could change them. But I don't think I would have Dragon. I think I'd have Senor as 4th seed, and then have Dragon as 5, and then keep Laser, Harazmi as 7, and then I think I would have myself as 8 seed, and I think I would remove Anorak and Daime. I do think that is how the 8 seed is going to come down to. It's going to come down to myself, Anorak, Daime, and maybe Flup. But I do think that's how it's going to end up panning out.
Yeah, I guess since I'm literally on screen right now, my predictions, as you can see, they're all really green, going so well.
Got them all right.
I do kind of like some of them to go. Like obviously, me as the 4 seed is probably like the most likely 4 seed outcome in terms of betting odds. Laser's the 5 is interesting. I mean, of course, he's got the potential to. Harass Me at the 6 seems a little low for me. He could get the 6, like because I think it could be like me, Dragon, Harass Me order. Laser could make some noise and get the 5. I mean, I hope he does. Clearly, from my predictions. Flop, I touched on this earlier, is my 7 seed. I don't want to say it's over, but in terms of Flop, she might be going for the wild card now over the 7 seed. It's going to take quite the run from Flop at this point to get the 7 seed, so wild card might be where Flop is going. And Dragon is the wild card. I mean, if he somehow doesn't qualify in the first 6 weeks/7 weeks, he would definitely get the wild card, but I just don't see that happening. Like he would have to lose in a race at the end where he just has a disaster, or he might have to have multiple disastrous races. So I don't really like my top 8 predictions at all, and how they're going. And I guess I'll end on this. If you had a favorite to win the whole tournament, I know mine. I think I might know yours.
Frost.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna ask this to all my guests every week, but I think everyone is so far in agreement that Frost is the favorite. And if I had to go for a second favorite, it's really hard to pick right now. I think the easy pick is to say Jared, but I think a lot of things could happen, especially from now until top 8. And if Jared's not running, things could be different. I couldn't even pick a second favorite right now.
I think my second favorite has to be Justin. Honestly, like
fair enough.
It's just really tough because I mean, Justin's been playing the game for 7 years almost.
Yeah,
at this point.
6.5 basically.
It's just really, really tough for Jared to even be able to compete with that. Even if he was a really good racer, and he's just not the strongest racer, so it would just be really, really tough. But it's a single elimination,
Yeah.
So I mean anything can happen.
Yeah, I mean obviously the final bracket's sort of trending in the way of as we predicted beginning of the turn. Like, well, Frost I guess was not predicted the 1 seed, but whoever wins that first race, which in this case is Frost, a Frost versus question mark 4th seed, 5th seed in the semifinal, and then a Justin Jared semifinal is like the how it's trending. But obviously there's so many weeks to go, so much can get shuffled up. Justin has not even gotten the 3rd seed yet, so we'll have to see how that goes. I'm excited for week 3. I want to thank Tfresh once again for coming on as a guest, and I'll have another special guest next week. I'll see you then. Make sure you watch the other guys' recaps, Anonymous and Hamster as well. All right, bye-bye.